Hi everybody, once again it's Sandy Boucher and welcome back to the Learning Curve. As promised, today we're here with Charlene Rogers. Thank you so much for coming out again.
Thank you.
This is such an important topic, and I have to say, as an Indigenous woman, like I kind of alluded to in my intro, talking to a non-Indigenous person who owns the fact that they're unpacking and is willingly going through that journey, that is so reassuring for me. So thank you for that. And it's one of the reasons I really wanted to share it with the viewers, not only so that non-Indigenous people can understand. If there's things you don't understand, welcome to the journey. Because on all sides of that fence, there's things we don't understand. But Indigenous people need to know that there's people like you that are doing the work and trying to get this together. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming out again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to share, and like I've said to you before, anything I can do to help.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to have these cross-cultural communications, because ultimately, as a white person, I don't always know where I stand, and I don't know if I'm communicating well or whatever. It's a journey, and it's really trying to get to know each other, right? And on a different level, and really understand and make sure that we're clear on our communication.
Exactly. And you touched on it, like nailed it. Relationship building. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, even when you say something maybe you shouldn't, because the relationship's there, it's like, oh, okay, maybe let me explain something to you, right? Whereas if there's no relationship and someone says something, your back goes up right away, and it's like, because you don't know how to take them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So the relationship just makes it a soft place to land.
For sure, yeah.
When we knock the feet out from under ourselves.
And safe to ask questions too, right?
Right.
As a non-Indigenous person, I'm not sure what questions are appropriate to ask. So I'm doing this unpacking essentially on my own, and hope that I'm arriving at something that's right or correct or whatever.
Exactly.
And feeling safe to have someone I can ask questions of too is really.
And I love when they ask, I get those emails all the time now. So I'm trying to do this, could you check it over to make sure I didn't do something? And just the fact that they're asking, like I always celebrate that, because 10 years ago no one was asking.
No.
And that in itself is such a huge step. Yeah. So before we jump in today's show, because we could just keep going, for clarity, I always want to put it in the proper context. So you're not from Thunder Bay.
I am not from Thunder Bay. I'm from Southern Ontario. I grew up along Lake Ontario in a little village, not even in the village, in a place called Welcome.
Okay, I thought it was called Welcome. I remember that. It was like, because it was too adorable. So yeah, okay. And you've traveled all over, because I know you did some time in Yellowknife.
Yeah.
Did some time, that sounds terrible, but I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. But yeah, Yellowknife, Kingston, and here.
And then here.
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. And you are not Indigenous.
That's right.
Right? Okay, so, because we're going to do something fun after the break, and being Indigenous and non-Indigenous is going to come into play there. So you've been on this amazing journey of unpacking, and I know I have been for quite a while, and I don't know if you believe it or not, but I believe that's going to keep going to the day I die. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You just don't know what you don't know, and we are so immersed in our culture and our upbringing, and you just don't see. It's like a fish doesn't see the water it's living in, right? We don't see what we're living in, and it's a big, long journey.
What an amazing metaphor that was. I may have to use that.
From one of the professors I read when I was doing my master's degree, and environmentalism stuff. It was one of his.
Okay, awesome. So, and this may be impossible to answer, but I'm going to try it anyways, ask you anyway. So do you have any idea when your unpacking started?
Yeah.
Like, was there a point in time?
It is kind of hard to pinpoint, the day and whatever, but I'm guessing it was around 1997 when I was living in Yellowknife.
Okay.
And I lived in an area with government folks and non-government folks. So wealth and not wealth. And in in Yellowknife, I really was it's a small community and really, really obvious disparities.
Okay.
So I saw for the first time, I didn't notice Indigenous people so much when I was growing up. I didn't even know that there was a reserve very close to where I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And
that's incredibly common. I've heard that from so many people. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this was my first time really seeing people of color. Even like I grew up in a white community. There was one black student who was a few years behind me. I was essentially in a white community, so I didn't have a lot of experience with people of color. Moving to Yellowknife, Indigenous people are everywhere in all sorts of different situations, working in government, working in retail, working like everywhere, just like people. Like people.
Imagine. Oh my God.
But then it was also the disparity, the housing conditions, the dress, the behavior on the streets, the different things that are typically viewed as racist kinds of things to observe.
Yeah. Now, to be fair though, and I'm going to give you some kudos here, I know a whole bunch of people that would see that and would put the blame on the Indigenous people, right? The stereotype, right? If they worked harder or whatever, those statements are, I don't want to list off a whole bunch of them, but you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's not where you went.
No, I was like, what's going on? Why is this so different? And the people I was with called the Indigenous people savages. And I was like, really?
Wow.
Like, this is horrible. Where do you get off saying that, right? Because that's not who I am. I was bullied as a kid, so I'm maybe a little extra sensitive to the name calling and the pigeonholing and that kind of thing. So maybe that's part of the unpacking process for me. But still, I mean, people are people, and I didn't get it because how did this happen?
Yeah, and it's nice that a negative experience like bullying, you were able to pull that empathy out and apply it. Now, I know because of our conversations, I believe it was when you were in Yellowknife that you had the chance to go to Latin America. So now you're going to run into a different group of Indigenous people, but you had an interesting experience there, or another aha moment while you were there, and I wanted you to share that. So.
Yeah, when I traveled by myself to Belize, and I was really fortunate to have visited this really small eco-village, or not eco-village, but an eco place, and I was able to travel and do tours, me and just the tour guide.
Okay.
And so we had these wonderful conversations, and we were driving around in town one day, and there's this Scotia Bank, of all things, like a Canadian bank in a small town in Belize. And you could have floored me. And so he and I had this great conversation around that, because I was saying, what's it doing here and what's going on? And he said that basically it was there, and now the local folks were taking out loans to build houses and that sort of thing, and getting into some really serious trouble because they didn't understand the concept of interest. And they were losing everything that they thought they had gained. They were trying to, improve their lot in life, and in fact ended up worse off than they were. And that I learned about how they used to work for a period of time, earn enough money to buy some bricks and start building a house, and then that would come to an end, and they'd work some more and build add more, and so on. So it wasn't like we do, where we build houses. It's like the field of dreams.
Now.
Well, but I mean, they're developers, build houses hoping somebody's going to buy it and move in. Well, that's not the way it works in a country like Belize, or not then anyway.
Exactly.
And it was scary. It was like, I couldn't believe it. It was like, we're colonizing here. Canada is colonizing with our banks in a small Latin American community.
This is not just a historical thing, it's ongoing.
It is ongoing, and that frightens me.
So it was after Latin America that you went back to school?
Yeah,
right?
well, quite a long time. Yeah.
Okay. And was it in school where you came across Ishmael, the book?
It isn't, actually. I read it before. I was trying to place when I read it. I know I was in Yellowknife because I was able to have conversations with my employer about it. And we talked about Yellowknife being like a third world country, and many places in Canada being like the third world with those disparities that I was talking about. And I read Ishmael and told her, you've got to read this, and she read it, and so we did a bunch of back and forth with books on that stuff too. So
if you saw the last show that Charlene was our guest, she mentioned reading Ishmael, and I'm reading it now. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through it, and oh my God, like highly recommend for anyone. I don't want to give away a lot of the book, but we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. We're actually going to go to break here. And when we come back, I actually have 3 different books that I'm going to recommend to you to, if you want to do further unpacking and further research on your own. But we're going to have a little conversation about Ishmael. And then we're actually going to look at a quiz that I introduced in a previous show that Charlene and Ashley, we've taken the quiz, so we're going to discuss our findings. I have no idea what her score is. She doesn't know mine. So go refresh that coffee and come back in a few minutes. We've got a lot more to share with you.